Good evening and welcome to today's lecture. Today we are turning our attention to competition and market. This is the outline of the presentation. We're going to talk about competition and markets, industry competition, 5 forces model. We'll look at life cycle model. We'll look at the BCG matrix, and then we'll end with opportunities and threats. So that's the outline of the presentation. Now we'll take a few minutes to define key concepts or keywords. What is a market? In the first place, a market is a place where we do buying and selling between vendor, that is the seller, and the buyer. So these are the conditions necessary to define a market where there's buying and selling, and then it takes place between the seller and a buyer. It could be a physical market, like the Makwala market. It could be electronic market, like what we see these days with the Ghana Stock Exchange, and so on and so forth. The market can be defined in different ways. It can be defined by the products or services that are sold, such as the fashion clothes market, the banking markets, the investment markets, the oil and gas markets, the commodities market, so on and so forth. It can also be defined by the customers or potential customers for products or services, such as consumer market, or the youth market, or the children market, or the education market, or students market, and so on and so forth. Customer markets might also be defined by geographical area, such as the West African market, the East African market, the North American market, the Middle East market, the Ghanaian market, the West African market, and so on and so forth. And markets can be global or localized. So it can be localized, it can be global. For instance, the football market is a global market, right? The Gari market is more localized in Ghana and maybe in Nigeria and some few parts of African continent. Okay, so next we look at what a customer is. Who is a customer and who is a consumer? A customer is simply a person or entity, so an organization that purchases a good or service, and it ends there. Okay, so this person or this organization or entity just purchases the good or service, and thus becomes a customer, right? If they then go on next to consume the product or service, then they are referred to as what? Consumer. So a consumer is the person or entity that uses the good or service that has been purchased. So a customer is not necessarily a consumer, right? You can buy something and not consume it. Okay, another person or another entity consumes it and becomes a consumer. What is an industry? An industry consists of companies which produce similar goods and services. Example, the aerospace industry, where airplanes are produced or aircraft are produced. So you have different companies like Boeing, like Airbus. Okay, these are two major companies that produce aircraft or aeroplanes. You have the Boeing and then you have the Airbus. So they constitute the aerospace industry. You have the automobile manufacturing company. You can have a lot of them. You have Volkswagen, you have BMW, you have the Toyotas, you have the Ford, etc., etc. They constitute an industry or the automobile industry. Within an industry, there may be different segments. So an industry segment is a separately identifiable part of a large industry. For example, the insurance industry in Ghana is an industry, and within this industry, you have various sectors. So you have the general insurance sector, you have the life insurance sector. So the general insurance sector would deal with things like vehicle insurance, building insurance, and asset insurance, and so on and so forth. And then you have the life assurance sector within the insurance industry, which deals with life insurance, okay, funerals, funeral insurance, and then insuring your parents, insuring your kids, and so on and so forth. They constitute life insurance. And then you also have the pensions, where you have contributions towards the pensions of employees. Okay. And take note that this is guided by law in Ghana. The insurance industry is split into these sectors because of the issue of law. In the past, they used to be just one, but these days, the new law has broken them into different sectors. Companies need to make strategic decisions about the industry and industrial segment they intend to operate, because as a company, you are limited in terms of your funds available and then your strategy. So you have to decide which particular sector or which particular industry you want to invest in, right? And even within that industry, which particular segment of the industry do you want to operate in? You have to take a strategic decision on this. Okay, and then also take a decision on which markets are you going to concentrate on, the local market or in the international market. Now, there are various types of industries. We have fragmented industries. These are firms and small firms, or small and these are firms are small and let me take it again. So fragmented markets are small industries that sell to a portion of the total market, right? For example, the dry cleaning services, hairdressing services, shoe repairs. These are very, very, very small industries or segments of industries that we have. Then we have emerging industries. Emerging industries are industries that have just started developing and are likely to become big. They have the potential to grow and become big. Okay, especially the IT industry in Ghana. It's an emerging industry in Ghana. It may not be emerging in other countries, but in Ghana, it is an emerging industry. Okay, an example again is the space travel industry. Currently, it is an emerging industry. We understand Elon Musk is trying to actually commercialize space travel. So if you want to go to space, you pay and then you are taken to space. So you can watch space and then you see the whole of Earth from space. So this is an emerging market he's trying to venture into. And he's obviously the first entrepreneur or man to, want to do this on a commercial basis. We have mature industries. These are industries whose products and services have reached their highest peak of maturity, right? And for example, the automobile manufacturing industry, the soft drinks industry. All these automobile industries, Nissan, Toyota, Ford, BMW, and so on and so forth, they've reached their highest level in terms of growth. Okay, if you talk about the soft drinks industry, you talk about Coca-Cola, Pepsi, they've also been around for so long, they've gotten to their peaks, right? And then we have declining industries that are taking a nosedive. They've been around for so long, and then suddenly they are falling off because there is no need for their existence. For instance, the coal mining industry in Europe is taking a nosedive. Okay, the charcoal industry in Ghana is also grinding to a halt because now we have gas that we rely on, and you can name other examples. Global industries are industries that operate globally on a global scale. For example, the professional football industry is one typical example. The microprocessor computer industry is another global industry. Now, let's look at this model and take note that in this paper, that is strategic case study, we are going to learn a number of models. A number of models are going to come up during our lesson. And we need these models, especially when we are answering our questions. A lot of the questions will be surrounded or border around these models. So first of all, you need to know the models, understand them, and then be able to identify the models within the scenario that you are given, right? The huge volume of information in the scenario would have these forces or elements of these models in there. And so it's your duty to be able to identify them. If you know the model very well, then once you read the case, you'll be able to identify or pick up the model being applied over there. And you should be able to apply it straight to the questions that are being posed to you. So we take a look at Porter's model. We've seen other models by Michael Porter. So this is Porter's 5 forces. This is a model that is centered around competition, right? So if you have an industry, okay, how do you analyze the competition within the industry? Okay, how easy or difficult it is for other companies to get into a market or a space or an industry, right? So for instance, let's take the telco industry in Ghana. Currently, we have MTN operating, we have Vodafone, we have Airtel, Tigo. I don't know whether we still have Globe. We have a few. Okay, this is a big industry. Okay, so we're going to have an assessment of how a new company would want to get into this industry. How easy is it? How difficult it is? Remember, when you have so many companies within an industry, there is chances of having steeper competition. The competition is quite high. But if you have 1 or 2, then there's almost like there is no competition. And remember, competition is good for what? For the customers. So as much as possible, we encourage competition. So Porter's 5 forces will be used to assess the competition within an industry. And these are the elements of Porter's forces. We have threat of new entrants, bargaining power of buyers, threat of substitute products, bargaining power of suppliers, and rivalry among existing competitors, right? This links all the others, rivalry among existing competitors. We'll take them one after the other. Now, if you have an industry and you want to determine how competitive, how easy, how difficult it is for another company to get in, okay? You look at, or you pick these elements, threat of new entrants. How easy it is for a new company to enter into the telco industry in Ghana, okay? It will depend on the barriers to entry. Are there any things that bars other companies from setting up? Okay, barriers to entry, economies of scale. Are these companies already existing, enjoying economies of scale, such that if the new company comes in, you would not be able to compete because those in there are enjoying economies of scale. And before you can enjoy economies of scale, you need to have large customer base. Are you able to get that large customer base immediately you get into that space, right? Brand loyalty. If already over 90% of the market, I mean, people or customers are aligned to particular telcos. For instance, MTN, more than 50% of Ghanaian telco subscribers or mobile subscribers are with MTN, okay? There's that kind of loyalty with MTN. So when there is a brand loyalty to a particular company or a particular brand, it makes it so difficult for you to get in and be able to draw these customers to your side because they are loyal to those companies and they are not ready to change their mind. So that makes it difficult for you as a new organization to enter into this space. Capital requirements. When you have huge capital requirement, you need a lot of money to get into that space. And truly, the telco industry, you need so much capital to be able to get in. And this is a technology-based industry where technology keeps changing from time to time. Within a very short time, things are changing, okay? And so you need enough or a lot of capital to be able to keep up with the space. Do you have that capital to be able to enter into the space? So that determines whether it is easy or difficult for you to get into that space. cumulative experience for an industry where the people in there have had so many years of experience. You are new, you want to enter, you barely have any experience. How are you going to get this experience to be able to match up with those in there already? How long is it going to take you? Okay, the industry will not wait for you to get experience and then come along. Those who have taken the lead have taken the lead. There's possibly, it's not possible for you to catch up. Okay, government policies. If there are certain government policies that makes it difficult for you to get in there, then it becomes what? A threat of new entrants, a threat to new entrants, right? Because you have to follow or abide by the government policies and so on and so forth. You need a license. It has to go through so many channels, right? And typically in Ghana, you know that some of these things, apart from the formal way of doing things, there's probably some informal ways of doing things. Going to see the minister, going to see the chief of staff or whatever. I mean, these things make it difficult for people to get into the telco space, all right? Access to distributing channels. Before you get in there, the companies in that space or industry have taken over all the distribution channels. Now, when you come in, how are you going to establish your own distribution channels? They've taken them over, right? So it makes it difficult for you to get in. So that is a threat to what? New entrants. Switching costs. How easy is it or difficult is it for people to switch from their already, the brand they are associated with to you? How easy are they going to be able to switch from their brand, the current brand, to your new brand? All right. So next element is what? Bargaining power of buyers. Bargaining power of buyers. So the customers within that industry or space, okay, how high or how low are their ability to negotiate their buying? Okay, how easy, how powerful are they in terms of negotiating buying? Okay, so this will depend on the number of customers. If you have so many customers, right, those customers, is it so easy for them to sort of have that power to decide what to buy and how much to buy it, your product? Okay, is it so easy? The size of each customer order. Okay, if each customer is ordering so much, huge quantities, okay, you'll probably be able to dictate how much you should sell to them, right? Differences between competitors. Okay, there's also one element that decides how easy or difficult it is for customers to be able to have a say in your product or services. Price sensitivity. How sensitive is your price? Buyer's ability to substitute. Okay, if they have the power, do they have the power to easily decide on whether they are going for a substitute product other than yours? Okay, buyer's information availability. What is the extent of information, the volume of information that they have to be able to make certain decisions in order to have that power to buy or decide to buy or not to buy your product? Switching cost is another. Excuse me. Next element is what? Threat of substitute product. Okay, threat of substitute product. How easy is it that customers can go for a different product or a substitute product other than yours? Can they easily seek an alternative other than yours? Okay, buyer propensity to substitute. How easy is it for them to be able to substitute your product? For example, if you talk about something like electricity in Ghana, is it so easy for someone to decide that I'm not going to go for ECG because ECG is misbehaving, they are inflating their prices and so on and so forth? If you don't go for ECG, where else are you going? We barely do not have any alternative to ECG, right? Relative price performance of substitute, okay? How well and good are these substitute products performing in terms of what their prices? Are they cheaper to go for or they are more expensive? Okay. Perceived level of product differentiation. how different is your product in terms of differentiation? How unique, how different is it? What's the value that your customers probably place on your product? Okay, is it high value or it is low value? All right. Bargaining power of suppliers. Okay, you want to understand the level of power that your suppliers have. Okay, and this will depend on the number and size of suppliers. If you probably have just one or two, a handful of suppliers, then it is kind of easier for them to have more power to decide on prices. Okay, uniqueness of each supplier's product. How unique is it? If it is very unique, chances are that you keep on going to those suppliers because this is exactly what you need. You don't have any alternative. Focal companies' ability to substitute. Okay, is there any ability or easiness, the level of easiness to be able to substitute these products? Right. Okay. Then finally, we'll look at what? Rivalry or competitive rivalry among existing competitors. Okay, so this will depend on the number of competitors. We said that earlier, that when you have a lot of competitors, then the competition becomes keen. If you have just a few, then it's quite difficult to kind of go over these competition. Okay, diversity of competitors. How diverse are the competitors? Okay, are they all looking the same or they are very, very different? Okay, industry growth. To what extent is the industry growing? Quality differences between products, brand loyalty, right? Barriers to exit, and then switching costs. All these are what? Factors that determine the competitive rivalry between competitors. So that's about Porter's 5 forces model. All right, next we'll look at the product life cycle. It is said that every product has a life cycle, just as humans have a life cycle. You are born, you start crawling, you are growing, you are talking, you become a teenager, then you move into adulthood, you are growing, then you become an old person, and then eventually you die off or you cease to exist. It's the same way that products also go through. They also go through what we call product life cycle. The product life cycle is constituted, or the elements of the product life cycle are here: introduction. So we have the introductory phase, we have the growth phase, we have the maturity phase, and then we have the decline phase. And this is the nature of the graph. It looks like this. It goes from introduction, then it moves up to growth, then it gets to maturity, and it's almost become like stable. Okay, then for some time, thus begins to what? To decline, and then it gets to the end. So this is the nature of what? The product life cycle. And we look at each stage. Now, for the introductory phase, some books would actually extend this. The introductory phase, the launching, and so on and so forth. So this introductory phase can be broken into 2, where we have the development phase, where you develop the product and then before you introduce it to the market. So that is another phase within the introductory phase, but it's not showing here. So you can have a development phase before you introduce or you launch the product. Okay. Now, we should understand that at this level, okay, the company is interested, or the main goal of the company is to get the product to the market. Okay, the product should be fitting enough to be launched onto the market. That is the main goal in the introductory phase. So when we are describing, let's know what the main goal is and then what the focus is. So throughout, we'll be looking at all these. So the focus is adapting rapidly to new insights from customers in the market. So within the introductory phase, you hear a lot of feedback from your company. Oh, your product is not good. Your product is good. Oh, if this product was designed this way, it would help. Want this color, want this taste, that kind of thing. So within this phase, you need to pick up all these information and then quickly incorporate it into the new product so that you can get the buy-in of customers. So that is the focus of the introductory phase. Now, during the introductory phase, oftentimes it is difficult to actually make profit, because this is where you've done so much investment, you've put in so much, you are in terms of adverts, in terms of research and development, all these are here. And so it will take a long time for you to do what? To be able to start break even and then making some profits. Okay, so from the introductory phase, we enter the growth phase where now the product has become accepted by the market. Okay, they've accepted the product, they are going along with the product. Then you realize that the product is growing, is gaining ground. So you are gaining a lot of the market share, right? So here the main goal is to expand the reach. Keep on pushing advertising. You never stop advertising. You keep on pushing the product to all the various or the possible corners of the market. Okay, you scale up and then you stay competitive. You should be aware of your competitive environment and then continue to innovate, okay, to keep your product on the market for long. Then you have to focus on supporting more users while optimizing to accelerate the growth. Okay, so it keeps on growing, and then chances are that here you begin to make profit. You break even and then you begin to make profit. Then after some number of years, it enters into the maturity phase where the product has now become matured. People have accepted it. Typical example is Coca-Cola. Okay, everybody knows about Coca-Cola. Everybody has accepted Coca-Cola. Sometimes you find out that there are some adverts or videos about Coca-Cola, that Coca-Cola is killing people, and it's not good and all, but people continue to consume Coca-Cola. Why? Because this product has become accepted globally and it has reached its maturity phase. So here, the goal for the organization is to retain the product. Okay, retention, sustaining the market share. So it doesn't mean that when your product becomes matured, you have to stop advertising. You have to keep advertising, right? You have to keep advertising. The focus here is evolving value proposition while focusing on customer satisfaction and delight. Okay, so the same product, Coca-Cola, but then the advert is put out in such a way that you keep on getting attracted to Coca-Cola. Watch their adverts and see how they put out their advert. It's the same product. Nothing changes about Coca-Cola. Nothing changes about Coca-Cola. For a long time, the only thing you might see is that they will change the bottling or the packaging. That's it. But then the taste of the product, the quality of the product is still the same. They are not changing it. Okay, it's a strategy they have adopted to attract all of us to it. Okay, it gets to a point where after the maturity, nobody or no product exists for life. It gets to a point the product would decline. Okay, and there could be so many reasons. Now, in the decline phase, and then also take note that a product declining may not necessarily be because the product is not doing well. It is probably because the product is no longer fit for that market. It is no longer acceptable, like the coal industry in Europe, and then the charcoal industry. Whether you like it or not, there is gas. Everybody is moving towards gas. To what extent can you continue selling charcoal, right? So it is taking a nosedive. And sometimes too, organizations strategically remove the product from the market. Okay, it is for strategic reasons. Okay, and in both cases, it is the decline phase of the product. Okay, so you have to adopt a strategy to remove the product gradually from the market. And here, the goal is determining the best outcome. Okay, you don't just decide that, okay, one day you're just going to face off the product from the market. You have to probably do it in a gradual manner. The focus is thinking strategically about pivoting, resurrecting current offering, or phasing out. Right, so this is about the product life cycle. Every product technically or theoretically goes through a product life cycle. We'll come to understand why this is important for us as strategists or students of business strategy. Okay, now it is also important for us to note that during each stage of the life cycle of the product, okay, these elements that we see here would change or differ. So in the introductory phase, the selling prices will be different. Same way when you get into the growth phase, the maturity phase, and then the decline phase. Cost may also differ, the cost that you incur. Clearly, as we saw in the introductory phase, there's a lot of cost. That's why you're unable to make profit or even break even. There's a lot of cost here. in terms of your research and development, in terms of your marketing, huge marketing cost, right? Now take note that in all these phases, you continue to market your product because your product is out there in the market. Like I mentioned, the fact that your product has matured does not mean you should stop what? Marketing. Coca-Cola is still marketing. MTN is still marketing. They're all marketing, right? So the only different thing is that at this stage, you may be enjoying economies of scale, huge economies of scale. And so your costs would be different from what? The cost you were incurring during the introductory phase and the growth phase. Okay, the cost may differ. Another thing that may change is that the amount invested in terms of capital may also vary from stage to stage. So clearly, that is the phase you might have to do the highest level of investment, and then the investment may reduce over time. Okay, all right. Spending on advertising and other marketing activities may also change. Same way, there's a lot of advertising here than probably in the growth phase. Okay, and then even probably more than you would have during the maturity phase. Okay, so these factors keep on changing depending on the stage of the life of the product. Now, what are the cost implications of the product life cycle? Research and development costs. I mentioned that during the introductory phase, you have huge R&D costs. You may not need R&D during the maturity phase, during the growth phase. You may need very little, but in the introductory phase, it's quite high. Training costs may be very high during the introductory, maybe even higher during the maturity phase. Okay, and it may stabilize during the it may even be higher during the growth phase and stabilize during the maturity phase. Machinery costs may be very high during the growth phase and then the maturity phase, right? Production costs, same way, may be higher during your growth phase and then the maturity phase, because over there, you're having to deal with large number of customers and you need to produce more. Distribution and selling costs would also be very high during growth and then maturity, especially during the growth phase. You need to get access to distribution channels. You need to push your product through every available channel. So the cost of distribution and selling would be very high. Marketing costs may be very high when you introduce the product and then the growth phase. It may stabilize during the maturity phase. Working capital also would change along the line, right? It will be very high, usually during the growth phase and then the maturity phase. It may be quite low during the introductory phase. Okay. So these are the cost implications that you'd have. And so within a scenario, if you see things like this, you should be able to identify them, right? So we've talked about this already, the cost implication during the product development. So this was what I was talking about, that during the introductory phase can be broken into two. We have the product development and then the actual introductory phase. In our diagram or in our picture, these two were subsumed under one. Okay, so you have high research and development costs and then capital expenditure costs, right? So you can look at the rest. Okay, so we move on. Now, what are the benefits of product life cycle costing? What is the benefit? Okay, when we say life cycle costing, what you are technically doing is that you are looking at the cost involved in the product life, right from the product development phase through the introductory, growth, maturity, decline, and then withdrawal. All the cost that is involved, right from here to the end. Okay, you look at all the costs involved in all this, right? So that is what we call life cycle costing. All the costs involved from the beginning till the end. Okay. Now, if you're able to assess and know the cost involved, then you match it with the revenue that is or will be accumulated throughout the life of the product. Okay. then you'll be able to tell whether throughout the life of this product, you are going to make profit or you are going to make loss. Now, oftentimes, we begin measuring our profits from here because we think that here is just a lot of what? Um, Research and development, a lot of product development. And so oftentimes we start talking about profits from here, and then we say, well, the product is making profits, the product is making profit. But we forget that we have had huge investment here, okay? To be able to take into account these, we have to what? Consider all the costs that were incurred during the investment phase. And even during the decline phase, there may be some costs incurred. You need to look at those ones too, right? So the total cost throughout the life of the product against the total revenue throughout the life of the product will tell you whether this product has a good life cycle or not. Now, what are the benefits? The benefit is that there's the potential profitability of the product can be assessed. So right from the beginning, if you're able to determine how much it will cost you from here to here, and then the revenue that you're going to get throughout, then you'll be able to what? Determine the potential profitability of your product. Okay, so that is the benefit of what? Life cycle costing. All right. Then also, if you know this, if you know that this is probably not going to give you the best of profitability, then that would help you in terms of your pricing strategy. It would help. Okay, so you may decide that, okay, from the introductory phase, I'll keep the prices low. As it is growing, then I begin to increase the price gradually. And then when it gets to the maturity phase, by then I would have reached the peak or the price that I actually want to charge. Okay, so this can help you to adapt a good pricing strategy. And this may also lead to better control of marketing and distribution costs. Okay, all right. It will also help you to adopt techniques that can be used to reduce costs over the life of the product. All right. So you adopt techniques that would help to reduce cost. So you know that here in the introductory phase, you probably do not have a lot of options in terms of the investment. You really need the money or the funds to invest. Okay. So then as time goes on, you begin to reduce your investment. You begin to reduce your cost. This is a strategy that you can adapt, knowing that you spent so much during the introductory phase. It means that to be able to get this product to have a good life cycle, to be able to have a profitable life cycle, then along the line, you begin to reduce the costs, okay, so that eventually you end up making profit over the life of the product. Reducing the R&D phase to launch product quickly. Now, research and development is one of the areas that organizations, typically the pharmaceutical industry, they spend so much on research and development. Sometimes it can take them over 10 years to research and produce or bring out a particular drug. Okay, in all these 10 years, there's a lot of money or investment that is going through. Now, when you realize that this R&D is going to take a long time and is going to consume a lot of funds, then you have to adopt ways and means to reduce it. Otherwise, this product would not be profit-making overhead line. So probably what you may want to do is to adopt a different strategy. Instead of doing the research and development in-house, you may want to collaborate with institutions that are already doing research. They have the equipment, they have the personnel, they have the expertise, they have everything. All they need is funding. So in this regard, you have to collaborate with them, and then they will do the research for you. Okay, though it also comes with its disadvantages, patency and all those things, and then trade secret and all those things. So as an organization, you have to decide on this, whether you would want to give it to an institution to work on it for you, or you want to keep it in-house. Okay, all these you have to make a consideration, so that at the end of the day, your R&D cost will reduce. Okay, and this is a benefit from doing a life cycle costing. Again, by monitoring the actual performance of product against plans, lessons can be learned to improve the performance of future products. Okay, all right. And then finally, life cycle costing would help you to assess the strategic position and nature of the competition in the market. Okay, the number of competitors will depend on the stage of of the life cycle. At every particular stage in the life cycle of the product, you may have different competitors. Okay, and so this can help you as an organization to assess the strategic position of your organization before you make your necessary strategic choices. All right. Now, what is the relevance of product life cycle to business strategy, strategic management, right? Strategic management should consider the cash flows and profitability of a product over its entire life cycle. So as a strategist or as a member of the board of directors of that organization, you want to be sure that throughout the life of this product that you are introducing, it is going to make profit. So this is the relevance or benefits to you as a business strategist. When a decision is being made about whether or not to develop a new product, you're considering whether you want to develop this product, this COVID vaccine, do you want to develop it? Okay. Management should consider the likely sales and returns over the entire life cycle of the product. Don't just think that, oh, when I'm able to develop this product, I'll be able to sell it at this price and then I will incur this cost. No, that is not enough. As a strategist, you have to look at all the costs that will be incurred and then all the revenue over the life of the product, because you are looking at it with a strategic eye. You are looking at it with a strategic. For existing products, management need to assess the position of a product in its life cycle and what the future prospects of the product in terms of profit and cash returns might be. So for each stage of the life cycle of this product, as a strategist, you need to assess the position of the product. Okay, in that particular stage of the life cycle, what are the future prospects of this product? Can we continue to sell this product or put this product on the market? Do we have to change our strategy? Do we have to change our the pricing strategy? Do we have to change our costing strategy? Do we have to reduce investment? What not and what? We have to look at all these things to inform future strategy. Okay, and this will help you in terms of the profits that will come from this product and the cash returns from the product. Now, as a strategy, life cycle costing will help you to decide when to even launch a particular product. Okay, there may be other competitive products on the market. Do you want to put this product during the introductory phase where you have other products that are in their introductory phase? Okay, other, let me say, competitive products that are in their introductory phase, or you want to put it during their growth phase, or you want to enter into the market during their maturity phase, or you want to enter into the market during the decline phase. Which are you going to take, right? So product life cycle costing might help companies to make strategic decisions about when to enter a market and when to leave it, right? So that is what I just explained. Entrepreneurial companies might look for opportunities to enter a new market in the introductory phase, expecting the product will succeed and the company will win large market share by being one of the first entrants. Okay, so you have to take a decision as an entrepreneur. You know, entrepreneurs like taking risks. So for them, they would want to even enter during the introductory phase. Okay, they want to enter. They are taking the risk to enter. Remember, there is a lot of cost there, and the entrepreneurs are not afraid of taking risks. They will enter at the introductory phase. Okay, more cautious companies looking for growth opportunities might delay their entry, okay, into the market until the growth phase, when the product is already making a profit for its producers. So this is when they decide to enter. And remember, there are chances that you may not get higher returns as compared to the entrepreneur who started right at the beginning, because by then it is possible that they would have access to distributing channels that when you are launching your products later, you may not be able to get those distribution channels. They may have brand loyalty that you would not have if you are coming in during the growth phase. Okay, that's why entrepreneurs are always taking risks. And then all things being equal, the higher risk you take, the better the chances of what? Making profit. Companies are unlikely to enter a market during the maturity phase. Okay, they are unlikely unless they see growth opportunities in a particular part, okay, in a particular segment of the market, or unless the cost of entry into the market is very, very, very low. Remember, during the maturity phase, that is when a lot of what's cost, or there's cost reduction. Okay, there's few or little capital investment, and so for a company that is looking at low risk, they would want to enter during the maturity phase, because they don't have enough funds, or they are not ready to commit a lot of funds, and so they enter during the maturity phase. But the advice is that you hardly should enter into a market during its matured phase. Okay, because chances are that all the competitors in there have taken their positions already. They've taken the distribution lines already. They've taken the customers already. There's brand loyalty beaming within that space. So where are you going to get your new customers from? Okay, where are you going to get your new customers from? Okay, let's look at the telco industry then again. You remember there used to be what we call, I think, Glo. Glo came in, and then they came in by way of what? A different strategy other than what we currently have. So what they did was they were trying to dig distribution lines or communication lines on the ground when others are using different technologies. MTN, Tigo, Vodafone, they had saturated the market already, and you are coming in when this market has reached its maturity phase, and you are coming into it with a different strategy. Okay, that becomes quite difficult. Look at Vodafone. Vodafone came in to buy One Touch. Okay, they didn't come in to start from the bottom. They came in and then immediately bought One Touch, and then immediately they had access to what do you call it? Customers, immediate access to customers. Okay, I think it was Ghana Telecom. Ghana Telecom. So they had immediate access to to their distribution or to their clients or customers. All right. There's also a need to make a strategic decision about when to leave the market. Okay, during the product decline phase. I said that during the product decline phase, it is not always the point that the product decline on their own. Sometimes it's a strategy by management to pull the product out of the market. Okay, and so it is important you decide when to do that and how gradual you want to do that. Okay, because remember, during the decline phase, there are still some profits to enjoy, and so you may want to delay, enjoy the product, the profit that is coming out of the product, till you finally draw the product from the market. Okay, so timing of entry into a particular market is very, very, very important as a strategist. Okay, now let's look at the BCG matrix, the Boston Consultancy Group matrix. So this is a 2x2 matrix. Okay, on the vertical axis, we have the market growth. So there's market growing from this level to that level. So this section is the low market growth, and then there's a high market growth. On the horizontal axis, we have market share. Okay, low market share and then high market share. So this makes it a 2x2 matrix. Now, so combine the market growth and then the market share, and then see what strategy would want to adopt. Now, when you have a product that is enjoying low market share in a market that is not growing so well, that is not doing so well, those products or that product is called a dog. Okay, and the strategy you adopt here is that you have to ensure there is sufficient cash flow. Okay, or you may want to liquidate the product because you think the product is not doing well. Usually, at the end of the product life cycle, this is the decision that is taken usually, or this happens during at the end of the product life cycle, when you have the market not growing so well, it's not doing so well, and then your product is not even having a good market share. And usually, you adopt this strategy at the end of the product life cycle when you eventually draw the product or withdraw the product from the market, right? Okay. Now, when you have a product that is not enjoying sufficient market share or a low market share, but then the market is growing very well, that product is called what? A question mark. A question mark. So the strategy would be to either invest heavily to increase the market share. Okay, once you invest heavily for a low market share, once you invest, chances are that you are going to what? Have to increase your market share. Once you increase the market share, the product now moves into what we call what? Stars. Stars. Here, the strategy is that you ensure cash flow, the required investment is made so that you get the necessary cash flows. Okay, and this usually happens at the growth stage of the product life cycle. We just learned about the product life cycle, and then the products that I refer to as stars usually happen what? During the what? Growth phase, when what? The market is growing. Okay, the market is growing, and then what? The market share is also what? Growing. That is called what? Stars. These products are called stars. Now, when you have a product in a market that is enjoying a huge market share, but then the market itself is not growing or is not doing so well, these products are referred to as what? Cash cows. Cash cows. And this usually happens at the maturity stage of the product life cycle. Okay, you're enjoying huge market share. Okay, but then the market is not growing so well. So all you're enjoying is what? Cash, cash, cash. Okay, all right. You enjoy a lot of high profits and then low investment. So this is essentially what the BCG matrix is about. So then again, we should be able to understand this matrix. We should be able to apply it, and we should be able to link it to the product life cycle, which we just saw. So for each of the sections of the matrix, you need to be able to link it to the product life cycle. So first of all, you need to understand or know which strategy to adapt at a particular stage, and then how this is linked to the product life cycle. It is very important. Okay. Now, as we saw previously, we said that every model has its own disadvantages or criticisms. There's no perfect model in this world. So look at the disadvantages or the criticisms around the BCG matrix. The BCG matrix assumes that the competitive strength of a product in its market usually depends on its market share, right? And the attractiveness of a market for new investment depends only on the rate of sales growth in the market. Okay, so technically, we are only looking at what? Sales growth, or the growth of the market, and then the market share. That is the basic assumption under this the model. And so that is what is flawed. Now, unless a product can achieve a large market or a large share of the market, it is not sufficiently competitive according to the BCG matrix. Unless your product can achieve a large share of the market, your product is not competitive. And this is also flawed. Again, unless a market is growing quickly enough, it is not worthy to invest more money in it. This is according to what BCG matrix. And clearly that is flawed. The product can have a strong competitive position in its market, even with a low market share. Take note of that. That a product can have a strong competitive position in its market when the market share is even low. So it doesn't really matter whether you have high market share or not. Once your product has a strong competitive position in the market, that is good. But then the BCG does not agree with that. Okay? All right. Now, competitive strength can be provided by factors such as product quality, brand name, or brand reputation, or low cost. For example, Porsche. Porsche is, what do you call it? An automobile company. They produce very few volumes of vehicles to a targeted client base or market niche. Okay? They earn very high profits on the sale of each product, but then their market share is very, very, very small compared to companies like GM, that is General Motors, Toyota, Ford, Nissan, and so on and so forth. Are you saying that Porsche is not doing well? You see, but then according to BCG matrix, Porsche's position is not good. Okay, but in reality, they are making a lot of profit. They have a very small market share and they are making huge profits. Right. A company might benefit from investing in an industry or market where sales growth is what is quite low. Let's take note of that. So the criticisms continue. Other factors apart from market share and market size will also influence what a company should do with a product. Okay, for example, the strength of what competition, cost base, and brand strength are important consideration. But then BCG matrix is only considering what market share and market size or growth of the market. But then there are other factors that are important, such as the strength of the competition, which is not considered under the BCG matrix. The cost base within that market is not considered by the BCG matrix. And then brand strength. These are all important considerations you need to make. Okay, but the BCG matrix ignores them. Again, another criticism is that it is actually difficult to define what a market is. Okay, what is the market for this particular product? What is the market? Okay, it is difficult to identify which products are even competing with each other. Okay, how easy it is for you to, the fact that we are all operating within the same space or the same market doesn't necessarily mean that what we are competing with each other. Take for instance, the automobile industry. Okay, you have Toyota Corolla. Okay, from Toyota, you have Nissan. Let me say Nissan Almera. Okay, how do you know whether Nissan Almera is competing with Toyota Corolla? How are you able to tell that? It's quite difficult. Okay, BCG matrix is actually better for analyzing the performance of strategic business units and market segments. However, it is not so useful for analyzing entire markets. The entire markets, if you want to apply the BCG matrix to the entire market, it becomes difficult. Okay, all right. But then you can use it for a strategic business unit, a section of an organization or a business. You can use the BCG matrix. But then to apply it to an entire market makes it what? Flaws the model. Okay. It is also difficult to define what high market share is, what high market growth is, what low market share is, what low market growth is. What is the matrix? Okay. What is the level of, at which level would you say the market share is low or the market share is high? Which level would you say the market growth is low or high? The model does not define it. It's only saying what? Low and high. At which level? So this is another flaw of what? Of the model. All right. So that is about the BCG matrix. Let's look at opportunities and threats. This is another matrix. Sorry, this is another model we have to look at. This is actually under SWOT. Strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Okay, so we are taking the environment or the environment aspect of SWOT analysis. The SWOT analysis, the strengths and weaknesses are the internal, and then the opportunities and threats are what? The external. So we are looking at the external because we are looking at what? Competition. All right. SWOT analysis is a technique for identifying key factors that might affect business strategy. It's a simple but useful technique for analyzing strategic position of an organization. S for strength, W for weakness, O for opportunities. Now, what are opportunities? Opportunities are factors within the external business environment that might be exploited. Okay? Opportunities are things that you can easily exploit or you can exploit to the entity's advantage, and it will give the entity a strategic advantage or a competitive edge over its competitors. All right, threats are factors within the external environment that create an adverse risk for the entity's future prospects. Okay, so and sometimes it is even possible that factors that are even seen as threats can be turned into what? Into opportunities. So as an organization, you should be on the lookout to be able to identify threats and opportunities within the external business environment. Strengths and weaknesses are concerned with the internal capabilities and core competencies. We'll look at this as a whole topic we'll look at. Okay. Then threats and opportunities are concerned with factors and development in the external business environment. Now, how do you identify opportunities and strength within the external business environment? Now, opportunities and threats might exist because of particular changes within the business environment. Take note. It might be because of something that is changing. It might be because regulation is changing. It might be because information technology is changing. It might be because even some competitors are leaving the market or new competitors are entering the market. This could be opportunities or threats, right? They might also exist because of the nature of competition in the market or the existence of a strategic space. This might create opportunity or a threat. Okay. All right. To identify opportunities and threats in the business environment, you should be able to consider each aspect of the business environment. Okay. We talked about PESTEL. You could use PESTEL model to what? To consider the various aspects of the business environment. We've gone through this, so we will not belabor on it again. Now, once you're able to use your PESTEL model to identify the various factors within the environment, okay, you can use the SWOT analysis to assess these factors and consider how these factors might create an opportunity or a threat for the entity. So use the two models, PESTEL to identify the significant factors in the environment, and then your SWOT analysis to assess these factors. Okay? Identification for PESTEL, SWOT analysis for what? For assessment. All right. Now let's look at how you'd technically do this or practically do this. Now, so after that, after using your PESTEL and SWOT models, you then consider the competitive environment. Okay, what is the strength of the competition within the space you are operating? Okay, you should be able to consider the Porter's 5 forces model as well, and then ask yourself, are any of the 5 forces likely to change in the future? And if so, how might these change? Okay, what effect could this have on the nature of the competition and the profitability in the market? Okay, what effect could these changes have on the nature of this competition you are looking at and the profitability within that market? And you ask yourself again, does the life cycle model, okay, offer a useful insight into the market and competition, considering the entire life of the product or the entire life of the market? Does this help to give you an insight into that particular market and then the competition within that space? Is the market in its introductory phase? You have to find out. Is it in the growth phase? Is it in the maturity phase? Or is it in the decline phase? Is it likely to be able to move from one phase to the other? How soon? Okay, how long will it take for it to be able to move from one phase to the other? If so, what might be the consequences for the business? Okay. You ask yourself again, within the market, is the market segmented or is just an entire one ball market? Is it segmented? Do you have various segments within that market? What are the existing segmented markets? What are the segments within the market? You have to be able to identify the segments within that market. Are there gaps in the market that you can exploit? Okay. Are there any opportunities within that space? After segmenting the market, are you able to identify any opportunities for which you want to develop new products for those segments of the market? Okay, if the market is not segmented, however, okay, is it possible that this market can be segmented in the future? And if so, what might those market segments be? If now your assessment is that this market is not segmented, is it likely that the market can be segmented in future? And how do you make those assessments? Is there any opportunity to create a new market segment yourself as an organization? Can you do that? And if you did that, would you be able to create opportunities in those markets or market segments that you have created? Okay. Now, threats should be seen as circumstances that will weaken or remove a competitive advantage that the company is currently enjoying, or that could give competitors a competitive advantage over your organization. Okay. It is also worth remembering that some changes in the environment can be both threats and opportunities. We've mentioned those already. For example, it can be a threat if competitors of a company take advantage of a change in the environment. Okay, but then it can also be an opportunity if the company takes the initiative first. You don't wait for your competitors to take and then you follow. You always have to preempt. You have to get the necessary information to be able to preempt changes that would happen within your space or within the market. Okay, so this brings us to the end of today's lecture. Thank you so much for your attention.